Are you a content creator with your own website or mobile apps, and do you want to monetize that content that's on your website or mobile app with dynamic advertisements that you get to pick? I think I have the solution for you, and I'm going to show you how to do it today. Hi, I'm Logan. Welcome back to my channel. So I know what you might be thinking. Game Engineer Labs. I make content like this, of me playing games, and I make content like this, me creating something from a video game. And while I'm still at the beginning of my channel, and I know I haven't been particularly successful of creating things from video games, you might be thinking like, hey, why are you making content like this? This doesn't really seem to be something on brand. Well, I was watching this video here from one of my favorite YouTube channels, and something was kind of off with me. Not necessarily with the video, like I love these guys and I love their content, but there's something in the middle of the video that kind of inspired me to make this. And it had to do with this section right here. In this section, you can see that like the YouTube creators are going through, they're talking about their passions, they're talking about essentially what they're known for on YouTube. And halfway through the video, there's a section where they end up essentially doing like a little ad halfway through the video. And it got me thinking, right? Like YouTube as a whole, when you want to monetize your own content and you want to essentially have like work with advertisers, they essentially sponsor your video, and halfway through the video, you have to kind of do this cut scene where, you show off the ad, you talk about how it's sponsored, who's doing the sponsorships. And it really got me thinking, right? Like that's something that we have to do on YouTube. But when it comes to our own platforms and when it comes to our own creations on those platforms, we really get a choice in the way that we monetize video. And I wanted to be able to show you guys with my knowledge in the space of, cloud engineering and working on kind of similar marketing systems and videos to kind of show you how you could be able to do the same thing. You could do it relatively cheap with not a lot of technical experience, and it gives content creators like anybody who might be watching this video the power to make those brand deals and add those advertisements into their videos in a dynamic way that could essentially help, monetize their channels, help you make money. And that's what I really want to get to today, is show you guys how to do it and just pass along that knowledge, help other people on the platform. Yeah, it might not be gaming, it might not be engineering around gaming things that we play on this channel, but I know I have a knowledge, and I want the knowledge to do this, and I want to be able to solve a problem and help you guys solve that. So I'm going to show you how to do it, and let's just dive into it. Now, I do have to preface this. These types of technologies will not work on YouTube, right? If you're a content creator, you know that when you upload content, it requires very specific formats. With this particular format that we're going to be doing this in, this format right here, we cannot upload, as far as I know, to YouTube or other video platforms. This is something that is specific to players that work with the HLS format. And so I just want to make that very clear from the get-go. Like if there's another way to do this, I'll probably post a video sometime in the future to show how you can do this. But I do want to be able to show you how to make this happen and make this work on your own video platforms in a very, streamlined manner that doesn't necessarily require an engineering degree or like advanced knowledge in these things. Just, I want to be able to have you follow along with the video, explain certain topics and concepts, and then hopefully give you the knowledge to build it out and to make it more advanced down the line. So with that being said, we're gonna walk through a couple of things with this video. I'm gonna show you essentially the platform that I use just in my career and on marketing platforms and things like that. We're gonna be working with Amazon Web Services as the technology, something I'm very comfortable with. And we're gonna be bouncing around a couple of different services within that platform. And specifically the tools within Amazon Web Services that we're gonna be using to accomplish this is it's gonna be S3, and it's going to be MediaConvert, and MediaTailor. With that being said, there's going to be a couple of steps that we're going to walk through. I'm going to show you how to take your video content, upload it into Amazon Web Services S3 platform, take that video, convert it into a format that supports dynamically stitching ads into your content. Then we're going to go back to S3. I'm going to show you how to essentially update the permissions to allow people to publicly view your video. And then we're going to finally go into MediaTailor, and I'm going to show you how to do the right configuration to allow those advertisements to play in your videos. There are a couple of steps that you can do after this, which I will gladly make, because I'm going to be working off of some of the documentation from Amazon Web Services and some other providers. So I'm going to be providing all of that in the description. But there is one thing that we're probably going to skip, which I might save for a video later, or, obviously you can look at the documentation and work on that. And that's working with the CloudFront platform. I'm going to be skipping that mostly because I feel like that kind of relates more to once you kind of grow this a little bit bigger, because that's when you start getting into more complicated topics with the distribution of video. And I don't want to necessarily go into that. I want to be able to give you guys the tools to essentially just get your video content out there at the start, get advertisers, content into your videos, and then kind of grow it from there. We just want to do simple baby steps that are going to get this thing off the ground, and then give you guys the opportunity to grow it later. But, obviously with that being said, if people like this content, I'll absolutely be more than willing to show you a tutorial on how to grow this thing using other technologies within AWS. So let's go ahead and let's dive on into it. The first thing to know kind of what we're going to be working on here is that the type of stitching that we're going to be doing for these advertisements is what's known as server-side ad insertion. And the reason why you want to do this over another method, which is called client-side ad insertion, is that it follows a very similar structure to kind of what happens on your major streaming platforms. And the reason why a lot of streaming platforms do this is because with server-side ad insertion, the advertisements get stitched in on the server side. So that means it's much harder to block because with client-side ad insertion, you have things like ad blockers that don't allow advertisements to be shown. But when it comes to the actual advertising and monetization of your content, you don't have a lot of advertisers basically want to know that what you're putting in your videos for an advertisement is actually showing up to the end user. So that's why a lot of these different companies use server-side ad insertion, because essentially it guarantees a higher delivery rate for those ads. But to go ahead and just dive into it, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Amazon Web Services. So as you can see, I'm already in the console. But so I'm not going to go through and show you how to actually sign up for Amazon Web Services. This is a cloud provider. You do need a credit card in order to sign up for them. But what I'm going to show you here today is actually probably going to be free for the first year, as long as you're not having a ton of downloads for your videos. And quite frankly, if you're getting a ton of downloads for your videos and these advertisements are playing, the advertisements should be paying for what you're showing here today, or what you're going to be shown here today. Like if you're charging enough for advertisers to advertise on your video content, this should essentially pay for your usage fees in Amazon Web Services. Unless you're like a global provider, like the big media giants of the world, like your Hulus or your NBC Universals or those kind of organizations, you shouldn't really be running up huge bills with this. But the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to dive into the S3 platform. So luckily for me, actually, I should probably show this. Luckily for me, it's a recently visited service. But what you'll notice is that if you go to here, you probably won't see this if this is your first time here. you'll probably just see this drop down for all services. And as you can see, Amazon Web Services has many, many, many different things that you can go into. And this can be very daunting, right? I've been to several different conferences for Amazon Web Services. I actually know people who work at Amazon Web Services. And I think the most recent statistic I heard is that Amazon Web Services comes out with 1,600 new feature releases a month. I don't know if that number is exactly true, but I do know that they are innovating and coming out with new things all the time. So this list over the past 10 years of me using Amazon Web Services has grown exponentially. So the thing to realize is that while this may look daunting, nobody is an expert in everything on this platform, right? Like a lot of this is learned over time. And I just want to make that very clear. Like, don't let this kind of take you out of trying to do this on your own. The easiest thing to do, at least for me when starting out, and what you probably should do for this video, is that when I talk about services, use the search bar up here. And I'll actually use the search bar for everything. I'm not going to go to my recently used services. I'm going to just use the search bar for everything because I actually find it's a faster way to search for things. So the first thing we're going to do is that we are going to go to S3. And as you can see under services, S3, scalable storage in the cloud. That's what we want to click on. So go ahead and click on that. And here we go. As you can see, we have one bucket, and this bucket pertains to me. It's something I've created. This is something that I actually use for the Game Engineer Labs channel and store my videos in. And obviously, this is not public. So, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a bucket. In this bucket, we're going to make this super simple. You're going to keep the region the same. You're not going to do anything fancy, but we are going to create a bucket name, and this bucket name has to be specific to you. So the bucket name that I'm going to type in here, you will not be able to use. So I'm just going to call it Media Bucket for Game Engineer Labs. Labs, and we'll just call it input at the end. So media bucket for Game Engineer Labs input. I'm going to copy this because we are going to create a separate bucket at some point. But let's just get through the creation of this first one. So at first, we're going to block all public access. This is not a bucket that we want to be publicly available. We don't care about versioning. We don't care about tags. We don't care about server-side encryption. That is not important. We don't even care about advanced settings. We just need a name. So we're going to go ahead and create the bucket. Okay, so as you can see, we do have this bucket right here. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a second bucket. And this will make sense why we're creating a second bucket as we kind of go through the steps. But essentially, we are going to, well, it might be good to just jump back here. We are going to input our media file, which is our actual piece of content that we want to advertise on, and we are going to put it into this first bucket. But when we convert the media file to the final format that it needs to be in for this ad stitching, it's much easier to have it go into a separate bucket for the output than have it go back into this input bucket. So that's why we have two buckets. One is for just uploading the content, getting it into Amazon Web Services. And then the second bucket is where we're going to have all of our outputs for when we change the file types. So we're going to go ahead and create our second bucket. We're going to go here. I copy and pasted it, but instead of having it be input, we're just going to go ahead and change it to output. Super simple. We're going to keep all of the settings the same for now. There's not going to be anything super crazy done to this bucket just yet because we don't need this public just yet. So we're going to go down, skip all of these options, and we're going to go to create bucket. Awesome. So now, as you can see, we have both our input bucket and we have our output bucket. Now, what we need to do is we need to get our actual piece of content that we want to put on our video platform. So in this case, I'm going to actually use a test video file. So let me show you which one. It's a very common piece. Oh, don't need sound. Hold on. So the file that we are going to upload into this input bucket, it's a very, very common test file that is used in the video industry for testing out live streaming, or not live. Well, yeah, I mean, they do use it for streaming, but it also is very much so used in the advertising space to make sure that server-side ad insertion is working. It is a video called Caminades, I think. Caminades, I don't know, something like that. But here's the video. I don't have any sound. It's honestly used in a ton of test videos in this industry. So this is the one that I'm going to be using. And the important thing to recognize is, and I think I might have this clipped off, is that this is an MP4 file video. It is HD 1920 by 1080p. So that's what we're going to be using for all of this. So we're going to go to our input bucket here. We're going to click on it. We're going to click in here. There's no objects right now. We're going to click on the upload button. And as you can see, we kind of get all these things. You can add files, add folder. We're not going to do anything super crazy. We're going to take this MP4 video and we are going to drop it in here. And as you can see, it's in here. It's 191.1 megabytes. And our destination is this S3 file location right here. We don't care about permissions. We don't care about anything like that right now. And we are going to upload it. So once this is done uploading, I'll go ahead and jump forward and we'll continue. Okay. So as you can see, that took a few minutes, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes for that video. Depending on the content that you are uploading, this could definitely take a little while, especially if you're talking about 4K content. But in this case, it took like 2 minutes. So let's go ahead and close out of this. And as you can see, our video has made it into the input bucket. Now what we need to do is that we need to take this input file and we need to change the file format. The file format that we are going to be using is a format called HLS. And what HLS is it's a playlist file format. So it's going to essentially take let's go ahead and go through it first, and then I'll kind of explain along the way what it's doing. So you're going to go up to your tab up here or your search bar. You're going to type in MediaConvert. This is the name of the service, MediaConvert. It is a convert file-based content for broadcast and multi-screen delivery. And the cool thing about MediaConvert is that you can take input files and essentially have them output into many different file types at once. So as you can see, I've kind of already taken this video and I've gone through this process like an actual job beforehand when I was kind of testing out this process and doing it for myself, making sure that my knowledge was still up to date on it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to create a new job. So create job. I actually should probably preface this. If this is your first time in MediaConvert, which it likely is, you might see a different screen setup. All you want to look for is the option to create a job. So the input file URL. So we want to go ahead and see on this input one, we want to go to browse. We're going to click on our S3 bucket dropdown, and we're going to go to Media Bucket for Game Engineer Labs input. And then it's going to not show anything in the file, but if you click on the file, it's going to show you essentially what should be all of the objects that are in that bucket. We just have the one, which is our Caminades MP4 file. So we click on that and we're going to choose it. So for all of these, we can essentially skip those. But what we want to be able to do is to actually go to output groups, and we want to add an output group. And the cool part about MediaConvert is it gives you a whole bunch of default options, and we are going to use Apple HLS, create a stack of outputs for adaptive bitrate streaming to Apple players. So what is this doing, and what are we trying to accomplish with this changing the file format? Apple HLS is what's known as a playlist file type. It is going to take our MP4 file, and it's essentially going to take it and turn it into, I believe, what is 10-second chunks. Because when you're doing dynamic ad stitching, you have to actually there's configuration that happens, and you have to be able to say, hey, insert this ad within this 10-second chunk of video, and then play the rest of those chunks after that advertisement plays. That's what this allows us to do. It essentially allows us to take the video and turn it into many separate chunks. So we're going to select that Apple HLS format. As far as the custom group name, well, I think we're going to skip this for now. Hold on. Actually, no. We'll figure this out. So the destination, we want to go to browse. It's going to pop up with a very similar thing for our input section. Our S3 bucket in this case is going to be our output bucket. So we go ahead and click that. The location, there's no location. We're just going to drop it into that. So we're going to choose. We are then going to add a name modifier to this, and I'm going to call it 1920 by 1080. Just because that's what it's an HD video. It's 1920 by 1080. Everything else, though, I think we're mostly going to have the same. Yep, segment length. We want 10 seconds. That speaks to the chopping up of the video. It's going to be 10-second chunks. That's what we really want. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create. Might give us an error. Yes. Okay. I was hoping this error would pop up. So as you can see, we have output groups, 0, whatever all of this is, H.264 settings. Max bitrate is a required property. So what this is telling us is that, we have to have an actual set bitrate on this. So we're going to click on our H.264. As you can see on our output groups, there's the Apple one, the HLS, and then there's this, and this has a nice little caution error message right here, right? So it's telling us, hey, you need to have a max bitrate. Just so I'm not getting into it, and honestly, I'm not necessarily like I don't know a ton about like rate controls and bit rates and things like that. But what I can tell you is, in my limited knowledge, not being a super big expert when it comes to video, is that we have QVBR. This is something that gets automatically dictated. So even though we have to define a bit rate, it's not really important because this platform is actually going to pick a bit rate for us. We just have to tell it some sort of number. And so where I'm getting this number is under this max, or right next to this max bitrate option is info. Click on the info. Maximum bitrate is bits a second. For example, enter 5 megabits per second as this. Required when rate control mode is QVBR. We are just going to take this, copy it, and paste it into here. We are not doing anything crazy. And quite frankly, if you actually go through the Amazon Web Services documentation, this is actually what they recommend for this particular setting anyways. It might change for like essentially 4K content or anything that's like super high def. I haven't noticed it, and honestly, just test it out. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, then try adjusting this setting. But we're going to go ahead and create it. Oh, perfect. Okay, so job summary. It's telling us all the details that we selected. And we are just going to go to our jobs menu. So as you can see there was like a job summary. I went up to the top, and right to the left of it, there was an actual just standard jobs. Or you could click right here, top left-hand corner, it says jobs. So as you can see, this is our job right here that we just started. It is progressing. It's going to take a few minutes for this to work, so I will go ahead and get back to you once this is done. Okay, so as you can see, our video has completed. So now what this has done is it's taken the file from that input bucket, changed it and put it into our output bucket. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that that was actually successful and it's gone to the right place. So we're going to go back up to our search bar. We're going to go to S3 and here we go. We see the option under services. We click S3 and we're going to go to our output bucket. And now this might be a little bit jarring for some of you. This is what it's output. Essentially, it is 16 different files in 10-second chunks. And there's all of these different .ts files. We are not going to worry about any of those. What we really care about and they all have to be contained together. They can't be separated. But the main thing that we're going to look at is this .m3u8. That is the playlist file format, and this is essentially the instructions on how to play this entire video in these chunks. This is what we care about. But the problem that we're facing right now is that we have this output bucket is essentially, it is a closed bucket. Nobody can access this, so nobody can play the video. So what we have to do is that we have to alter the permissions. So we're going to go to the permissions. And as you can see, it says block public access. We want to change this. This is a video that we want people to be able to see. And so we want to go to edit and we want to turn on public access because, it's going to be public. And mind you, I guess I should preface this. Obviously, we don't want this open to the world depending on the circumstance. Like if this is a video that is blocked for certain viewers and certain things like that, I'm not going to kind of dive into that. We're just going to assume that this video is going to be publicly consumed on a website that everybody has access to. So we're going to uncheck this box of block all public access. We're going to save changes and it's going to give you a warning. And this is to basically tell you hey, this is a security thing. Do you really want the entire world to see this? And in this case, we're going to say yes. So we're going to confirm it. And now what it's done is essentially it's taken off the access control list settings. It's taken off kind of the guardrails. We are kind of in the Wild West, and I do want to make this clear. We are in the Wild West. You always want your security permissions to be up to date, depending on what content is in here. But like I said, we're going under the assumption that this is going to be public content. So the next big thing that we need to go to is bucket policy. So what we want to be able to do is we want to allow people to get the objects in this bucket, but not do anything else. So I have a website. I've put it in the description below this video, but it's essentially going to show you the bucket policy that grants public read access to specific files. So as you can see here, there's it's a JSON object. Not that you need to know any of that, but basically this is what's going to allow people to get your video objects. So you just want to copy it, and now we're going to go back to our bucket and we are going to go to this bucket policy and we're going to click edit. So we are going to paste this in. And just to kind of walk through what this is saying, this version pertains to the bucket policy versions. The statement is essentially, this is just the notation telling the bucket what it should be doing. SID is an actual ID for your Amazon Web Services account for the permissions. In this case, it's just being called add perm, but you just have to know that has to be unique, if you have multiple permissions. The effect is going to be allow. Principal, this is telling you who has access to this. We're saying the entire world. That's what we indicate by star. The action is S3 get object, which says, hey, you are allowed to access this. The resource is going to be for what resource they're trying to access. So in this case, we want to take, as you can see, there's this bucket ARN that's here. This looks very similar to this. So we want to allow people access to this particular bucket. So right to the left of this, there's these two little pages. If you click on that, that allows you to copy it. We're going to highlight the beginning of this, not including the quote where it says ARN, and we're going to take it all the way to where it says public prefix and where that ends. We're going to paste that in. So what this is saying is that it's going to be this particular AWS resource. It's going to be our actual, it's going to be our actual bucket name, media bucket for Game Engineer Labs output. That / star says anything that is inside the bucket. That's what we want. So we want to go ahead and save changes. Perfect. So now as you can see, there's a little icon when you do that that says publicly accessible, which means the world has access to objects in this bucket. They can't delete, they can't list, but they can actually get objects if they know it. So if you look up top here, we want to go back to Amazon S3. We're going to go ahead and click on that. Actually, we might have gone a little too far back. So we're going to go back into Media Bucket for Game Engineer Labs output. And what we care about is this file right here, the .m3u8 without any of the actual prefixes on there. We'll click on that. And as you can see, there's an object URL in the object overview. This is the URL to access this video. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to copy that URL. If you try to paste this URL in anything that is not Safari, you are going to have a bad time. It's just going to download a file, this actual file, and that's not what we want to do. We want to play it. So I'm going to use VLC Media Player, which is something that I already have on here, and I will show you what we're going to do. We're going to go here and we're going to go to, mind you, I don't think I'm capturing this part of my screen, but for VLC Media Player, you can open network. So you might be able to see the top of it. On Mac, it's File, Open Network. You're going to click that Open Network, and you're going to get an actual URL location. We are going to paste that in from what we got from our S3 bucket, and we're going to go ahead and open it. It's thinking. There you go. That is pulling from our S3 bucket, and it is playing successfully. So we have accomplished essentially uploading the video, converting it into a playlist file format, and actually getting it being able to be played. So the world can now access our video in the cloud, which is awesome. But we are only partially there. So let's go ahead and continue. Sorry for the weird cut. So we're going to go to MediaTailor. Okay. So if this is your first time on this screen, you might see something different. You might see like a landing page. But what we want to do is we want to create a configuration. So just go to the button that says create configuration, and we are going to click on that. So create configuration. We're going to have to give our actual campaign a name. So we want to click a name. Let's just say we're putting this on our website, right? We're putting this HLS content, have it play on a video player on our website. So I'm going to call it website campaign. And mind you, this name could be anything that you want. These campaign names are supposed to help you identify what you're trying to do with your content. So if you want to make it like, let's say you get an ad deal for, Dollar Shave Club. If you want to call it the Dollar Shave Club campaign, more power to you. You can pick any name that you want to. The content source. Now, from what we had before, right? Like when we put into VLC Player, I copied the name of the file location. That's kind of what we need. So we just want to go ahead and paste it. But there's one big difference with this is that we want to omit the actual playlist file. So we want to skip all of this at the end here, this combinades.m3u8, and we are just going to essentially just delete it out. We'll delete that out. Bam. Don't care about that for right now because we're going to essentially add it in later. Add decision server. Okay. What we're going to use to start off with is that we are going to use a URL that is in the demo file, or the demo. How should I put this? Not the demo file, but the walkthrough from AWS. and they use a very specific URL. And I'll kind of talk about this a little bit. So this URL that's in the file below, it's in the, what's it called? The MediaTailor like tutorial walkthrough thing from AWS. This is a URL from DoubleClick for Publishers. And essentially it is an ad decision server. Ad decision servers, essentially when you hit it, it returns back with an XML file type that basically tells the video content what file needs to play during a predefined moment. In this case, it's basically running an advertisement at the beginning, the middle, and the end of our content. We're just doing it to make sure that it actually plays an advertisement. I don't care about it past that point right now. I'll get into what we need to change to actually add in our own essentially cuts in for our advertisements that we want to play. This is just for a demo purpose. So that's all we need. So we're going to go ahead and create the configuration. So as you can see, we get all of this information. And I know this might look a little daunting at this point in time, but all we care about right now is this HLS playback prefix. So just go ahead and you want to copy this. And as you can see, there's like the two paper things again. We are going to click on that and we get a little green check mark. That means we have copied it. We're going to go back to VLC player. I want to try to show it to you here. And we are going to go to our file location, open network, and where we had that URL beforehand, we are going to paste in the new one, but we're going to take it one step further and we're going to re-add combinades.m3u8. Oh, 38. .m3u8. Sorry for misspeaking. I want to be very clear. This has to be very exact for this to work. So we are going to go ahead and open. And what it'll do is it'll think. It'll think, and then it plays. Bam, we have our advertisements. So as you can see, we have our pre-roll. It's going to go through. And now with the preset settings for our ad decision server section, it's going to do at the beginning, not exactly the middle. It's actually going to do 15 seconds after the start of the video. So we're in 10, 11. Oh, there it goes. Yep. There's our mid-roll. So that works. Now, we don't need to go to the end. This is like a 2 or 3 minute video. I'm confident that it's going to go through and play that last video because it's already done the other two. We don't really need to care about the rest of it. Now, there is one thing I want to preface this with. I shouldn't not preface, but we've already gone through it. Your advertisements at first might not play. You might have to wait a few minutes. And the reason for that is that with MediaTailor, it has to transcode the advertisements from the ad decision server. So if you are the first person that's hitting this URL location for DoubleClick for Publishers, it can actually take like 10-15 minutes before your videos start getting advertisements in it. So don't worry if it doesn't work. Give it like 15-20 minutes sometimes. Try it again and test it out every few minutes to see if it works. If you go through this and it doesn't work, try checking your settings again, and then we'll take it, just watch this back, try it again, see if it works. Of course, if you have questions, just put it in the comments of this video and I'll try to answer any questions that pop up. So now we can confirm that this works. Let's go ahead and go back to our main thing. So we'll go ahead and go back to our configuration. So as you can see, website campaign is there. It works. We have this ad decision server. So now what we want to do is we want to get rid of this demo ad decision server and these demo ads from DoubleClick for Publishers. We want to play our own ads that we choose in this video, and we want to do it at a preset time. So for this exercise, I've selected 2 MP4 videos. And mind you, these are not even 1920 by 1080p. These are actually just like, I think they're supposed to be like cell phone style examples. So I have 2 stock videos here. I have one. Let's see if I can pull it up here. This one right here. It's a girl just with colorful hair. Let's say it's like a hair product advertisement, and I want this to play in my video. The next one, I believe, is this one. Let's open this up. And the next one is a girl trying on, looks like Bose headphones. So maybe this is a Bose headphones commercial. Bose has reached out to us and they want us to play this video in the middle of our content. Cool. So the big things that we have to do is that we actually have to upload these advertisements. So let's go ahead and go back to our S3 bucket. So here's S3, go to the search bar, S3, click on that. Bam. We do not need to, for our own advertisements, to actually change the file format. And the reason for that is that we don't need 10-second, we don't need the advertisements broken up into 10-second segments. We had to break up the first one because that's what it takes for the configuration in MediaTailor to inject the ad. So we just need to have a video and basically reference that video. So we're going to go ahead and go to our output bucket, and just for sake of easiness here, so that we don't have to change configurations or do any of that, we're just going to upload these advertisements into this bucket, into this location. With that being said, if you want to have a bucket just for your advertisements, go through the part where I explained how to make it public, create a new bucket called advertisements, make it public, then put all of your advertisements in there, and then just reference, kind of like what we did when I showed you, when I clicked on this file, this object URL. You'll get that in your new bucket when you put the advertisements in. Get that once the bucket is public, and then you can just put it into the configuration file for the advertisements that I'll show you in a few minutes. But in this case, we're just going to put it in here for easiness. So I think I have the girl with the headphones I called stock video 1, and then the girl with the colorful hair I called just standard stock video. So let's go ahead and we're going to click upload in our bucket, and we are going to select the two files. Ooh, here we go. And I'm going to drag them over. Bam, stockvideo1.mp4, stockvideo.mp4. And like I said, these are MP4s. We don't need to change the file format, so we will just upload it. So this is going to take a few minutes, and I'll go ahead and continue once it's uploaded. Okay, cool. So as you can see, these uploaded. Stock video was 33.5 megabytes. Stock video 1 was 39.6 megabytes. This only took a few minutes. And honestly, these files are not huge. Advertisements are typically not giant videos. So they only take really a few minutes to get into a bucket. But we're going to go ahead and close this out. Now, the next thing that we have to do is, and this is a little bit more on the complicated side, but I'm going to provide the configuration and all this stuff to allow you to work on this. But when you work with advertising technologies, the two main technologies that you use for ad insertion, the first one's called VMAP, and the second one is called VAST. So when advertising first started, they used VAST was the original technology, I believe. And it's an XML file that tells these advertising servers and like ad stitching technologies, like how to actually work with the ads. And I've included in the description down below, the kind of organizing body that talks about how all this works is called the IAB. They tell you how these files are supposed to be formatted, how they work. If you care to read it, go for it. But I'm going to actually just go ahead and include the XML and how to do this. And I'm just going to walk through it because I think that's going to be faster and it might make more sense to do this. So as you can see, this is a gobbledygook of code. I mean, it's not crazy. It is still very human readable if you kind of go line by line. But the main things that you want to look for. So what we care about is this ad break section, right? So if you look, this is telling whatever's reading this, like this is the standard, this is what we care about, this is what it's trying to accomplish, this is the format. These next things that we care about, these are the chunks that we and you can see there's also a breaking tag at the bottom. So that's this tag right here is tied to this tag down here. But in here is where the magic happens. From here, basically to here. And the funny part is that you can copy and paste these as many times as you want to. So if I wanted to add, in this case, in this file, I have two different sections. So there's this first one right here, and the time offset is start. So this is telling it, hey, you're going to play this advertisement at the start of the video. And then I have a second one for the second ad, which is right here. And it's saying, hey, you're going to play this next ad. As you can see, the time offset is 00:00:15. That's 15 seconds. So we have essentially defined like, hey, this is when you're going to play the time. You can copy and paste this as many times as you want to. So if I want to add another ad, I can copy this section, go down here, paste it in, and I can say, hey, I want this to play at 45 seconds if I wanted to. I don't have 3 ads, so I'm not going to do that. So we're going to just Command Z this, get rid of it and the space. But there are a couple important things that you want to look at with your content. So mostly speaking is the duration. You want the duration here to match the ad that's playing. So in this case, if you look for my media files, I actually have the URL location. Oh, this actually is my old test one. So let's go ahead and go. This is for stock video 1. So let's go to stock video 1 in our S3 bucket. We're going to click on stock video 1. And would you look at that? We have an object URL. We are going to copy this. Object URL copied. We're going to go to our XML file. And mind you, I'm using WebStorm to edit this XML file. If you want to do this, like if you are on Windows, you could probably just use Notepad, honestly, with the .xml extension, and it'll work. But we're going to just overwrite this URL right here, and we're just going to paste it. And so this stock video URL, I know, is 15 seconds. So I've put in 15 seconds for the duration. That's what we want it to last for. And then the actual video type, I've told it that it's a video.mp4 file because it's an MP4 file. The width is 1920 by 1080. So the reason why I did this is because the content that I am displaying is 1920 by 1080. It is a high definition file, and it is the actual size of it is 1920 by 1080. If you're playing 4K, obviously you want this to match, but when I've tested this on TVs and things like that, it automatically scales anyways. It's not a huge deal. The second ad, like I said before, the time offset is 15 seconds, so it's going to play 15 seconds after our content starts. So we have the start ad. It's going to kick off the video. It's going to play this ad. It's going to play 15 seconds of our Caminades video, and then it's going to play this second ad. And I've done the exact same thing. We want to go back. So as you can see, this is like an old URL I don't care about anymore. We want to get the updated one. So we want to go to our stock video tab. Not the stock video one, just standard stock video. We're going to click on the object, and we're going to go to object URL. We're going to copy this again. And we are going to go back to WebStorm, and we are going to overwrite from beginning at the HTTPS all the way to .mp4 at the end. And you want to keep basically all of these, like the C data tag and the closing brackets. You want to keep all of that the same. So this is now done. Now, probably one thing that I should mention, if you just want to play one ad in your video, you could literally take out this ad break section, this one right here, where kind of has the linear time offset. delete it out, and you just have one content or one ad that plays in your content. And if you want to do the time offset, you can literally adjust the time. Where this kind of gets tedious is that if you have your own piece of content and you've kind of slated a spot where you want your ad to play, you have to track timing a little bit and say like, okay, I know that I've set an ad break in this video at 30 minutes, so I need to make sure that I'm doing this at 30 minutes. Oh, the other thing I should mention, for this time offset, the 00:00:15, this is hours, minutes, seconds. And so you want to make sure that you're doing that. If it's 1 hour, it's 01. In this case, we don't care about that. Minutes, it's the same thing. So if it's like 1 minute, it's going to be 01. You want to keep this format very much the same. I know these ad systems and ad titles kind of matter, but for this case, I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary when I left them this way. If you want to look at more configurations, read the IAB documentation that is in the description. But quite frankly, this should honestly work for almost every person who's watching this on YouTube and wants to like do this. This should be more than enough to get there. What we're going to do is that we're going to save this. And I don't know if you could see this, but in my little project here, I have this XML project. I've called this ad test. To make this easy, we have to get this ad test file into our bucket. We're going to go back to this media bucket for Game Engineer Labs output. And I'm going to upload this, let me get it, ad test file. So sorry, I'm a little bit off screen here because I don't want people to see what I'm working on. I'm going to go to my project file. I'm going to go to addtest.xml and I'm going to drop it in here. So this, our XML file is now there. And you have to make sure that this is saved as an XML or MediaTailor will not recognize it. It won't know what to do with it. But we're going to upload it. As you can see, 2.5 kilobytes, super fast, right? It's successful. We're good to go. So we're going to close. We want to go to this addtest.xml. We're going to click on it. And when you look at that, we're going to go back to object URL. We are going to copy it. Object URL copied. Now we're going to go back to MediaTailor. As you guys can tell, there's a lot of bouncing back and forth with this. We're going to go back to our website campaign, and we are going to click on this. And as you can see, we can kind of get back to that one screen that has a lot of gobbledygook on it. Don't care about this at the moment. We just want to go to the top right-hand corner, click Edit, and we're going to go to our Add Decision Server. We're going to highlight all of this, and we are going to paste it. So why does this work? That original Add Decision Server URL is giving this same XML file. Yeah, there's a little bit more to it. Obviously, Google and their double-click for publishers platform is probably giving you more information, like a bigger VMAP vast file, VMAP vast XML configuration file. But essentially, this is what it's outputting. This is what you're getting from Add Decision servers. So all you need to do is put like the instructions that you want it to do. So we're going to go down. Everything looks good here. We're going to save the configuration. Bam, we're done, right? So we want to go back to this HLL playback prefix. We're going to copy it. And now we're going to go back to VLC. Let's see if this worked. So we're going to pull this over here. We're going to go to File. We're going to go to Open Network. We're going to drop in the URL again. Actually, it might already be here. Is this here already? Website campaigns. It's already here. We don't even have to do anything. Let's go ahead and open it. Let's see if this works. Hopefully, I kind of want this to throw an error so we can talk about this a little bit. Oh, okay, perfect. No error was thrown.
But did you see that the advertisement that I had, so I told you that an advertisement should play at the beginning and should play in 15 seconds. There was no ad that actually played at the beginning of this video. And the reason why is because it's MediaTailor and it needs to transcode our advertisement that is in our S3 bucket. So that's kind of a bummer, right? There's going to be times where this happens where somebody accesses the video and it's not going to play the advertisement because it's not transcoded in time. But that's okay. For our purpose, that's fine. That is totally, totally fine. We're going to go ahead and go back. We're going to test it again. Let's see if this worked. It's going to take a few minutes, right? We're going to wait. There we go. Bam. So second time I tried it, it was transcoded. MediaTailor knew what to do. Oh, this girl's jamming out. We got a Bose advertisement going on here. She's jamming out. And this is, I think, a 15-second ad. Advertisement is done. And now it goes into our content. Bam. So let's make sure. So our video is going to play. It's 6-7 seconds in of our main content. And 13, 14, 15. Okay, so this is another interesting point. The first time it played, or it didn't play any ads. Second time it played the first ad, but didn't play the second ad. And the reason is because it's now transcoding the second advertisement on our video. So it's a bummer, right? We might have a situation where somebody will see the first ad, but not the second ad. We're just going to go ahead and stop the video. We're going to go to File again. We're going to go to Open Network. And we're going to open up the same location. And if actually, excuse me, a good tell if your ad has worked is the duration thing in VLC. So as you can see, the first time I pulled it up, it was 2 minutes and 31 seconds. The second time I pulled it up, it was 2 minutes and 45 seconds because it's taking that playlist file is now getting information that there's an advertisement that's playing, and our player is recognizing that there's content that's interstitched into the video. So it went from 231 to 245 because there was an advertisement that played. We're going to open this again. Let's see, it's showing 0. It's getting the file. It's getting all the information. Oh, I don't know if it showed it. So this girl's jamming out again. This is working. Okay, advertisement's done, goes into our main content. So like I said, at 15 seconds, it should hopefully play our second advertisement. But if it doesn't work, it takes a few minutes for the transcoding. And, that's not ideal. Oh, bam, second advertisement. Transcoding is done. Perfect. So let's make sure this advertisement plays all the way through. I think this one's a little bit longer. Bam, now goes back to our content again. Perfect. And now it's actually going to go through our entire video, no more advertisements. But the cool part is that because this is an HLS format, this natively works with Apple devices. So we're going to do something crazy here. We're going to go to, let's see if I can pull this up here. We're going to go to Safari, right? Like, let's go ahead, open Safari. And, okay, we're going to go over here, click on this, and we're going to go to that file location. Here we go, and we're going to go to commonades.m3u8. Here we go. This is in Safari. Bam, our advertisement plays, goes through, plays our content, 15 seconds, plays another advertisement, and then goes back to our content. This works in Safari. So if you have a website and you click on it, oh, I forgot I got sound on that. But yeah, so that'll work. And as long as your website has an HLS player, it will play that content. And that's the big thing, is finding a player that actually plays that content. I mean, there's tons, right? You just got to make sure that your website provider supports it. And as far as I know, most website providers, or if you have like most website like creation services should support HLS, but you got to make sure. As far as mobile apps go, what's really cool about this is if you have an iOS app, I know that this works with iOS. Now, with that, with the video tag in Swift and Swift UI, it plays HLS URLs natively, so you don't have to do anything crazy. But as you can see in here, we have dash playback prefix. So I know with certain, I think it's Android mainly uses dash. The only changes you really need to make is just change the file type. So instead of doing HLS, when you're doing MediaConvert, do dash, and then it'll work. And then if you need a dash playback prefix, use this URL instead of this HLS one that's over here. Not crazy complicated to change it, right? Like as you can see, when we were doing MediaConvert, there's actually a dash option as a prefix. Just use that. You're good to go. So now I hopefully you guys can see kind of the power of using this platform, right? Like if you have your own website, if you have your own mobile app, you can now have like different companies approach you, and if they want you to play their ads in your content, you can interstitch it. You can stitch it into your content dynamically without having to like actually re-edit the video. Now, if that advertiser who approached you ends up changing, they don't want to work with you anymore, or they, for some reason you want to add more advertisements, well, guess what? You can use the same thing and change what ad plays in your video without having to re-edit your content on your website or on your mobile app. Like I said, though, this won't work on YouTube, which is kind of a bummer. I wish it did. But this is essentially what these big players do. This is what the Googles of the world and what Facebook does. They use server-side ad insertion technologies to play advertisements on your content. And I just wanted to basically, from what I've seen in the industry and kind of what I've been seeing on content creators' sites and pages and YouTube pages, I wanted to be able to give you the power to do the same thing. To be able to take your own advertisements and get that into your own content in a way that supports your workflow. Well, that's it, guys. Hopefully you found this content informative. If you like it, please like and subscribe. If you have questions, please ask it in the comment section. I'm definitely going to be going through and answering any questions that you may have about these technologies. And, you know, I want to be adding, in the near future, hopefully I'll be adding more content like this too to help you as a content creator diversify the way that you advertise, diversify the way that you actually post your content and get people to engage with it. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.